We start the day's other headlines with a massive storm system that's rumbling across much of the country, stretching from Chicago all the way down to the Gulf.
This is what we're seeing. Oh, holy.
The most severe thunderstorms are carving a path across the south tonight, leaving toppled buildings, debris, and more than 400,000 people without power from Texas to Mississippi. The weather system hasn't brought just rain. It's also kicked up blinding dust storms across parts of the Southwest. And it's threatening to put a damper on Mardi Gras festivities in New Orleans tonight. Officials moved up and shortened the city's two biggest parades, hoping to wrap things up before high winds move in. Turning overseas, Arab leaders from across the Middle East endorsed a plan today to rebuild the Gaza Strip. The measure would allow the territory's 2 million Palestinians to remain in Gaza. It's a counter-proposal to President Trump's vision, which calls for removing Palestinians from the area and creating a beach destination. Experts warn such a plan would be a war crime under international law. At today's summit in Cairo, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi laid out his $53 billion plan, under which Hamas would cede power to an interim independent administration.
The plan starts with immediate relief operations and early recovery efforts, leading to the full reconstruction of the enclave. Egypt calls for adopting this plan at our summit today and mobilizing regional and international support for it.
The president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, was also there. He told the summit he's ready to hold elections as early as next year if, quote, conditions allow. The Palestinians have not held presidential elections in some 2 decades. In Serbia, at least 3 lawmakers were injured after chaos erupted in the country's parliament today. Opposition lawmakers threw smoke bombs and flares as the chamber was set to vote on a measure that would increase funding for universities. They say the session was illegal and that Parliament must first confirm the resignation of the Prime Minister and his government. Milos Vucevic stepped down in January after months of anti-corruption demonstrations related to the collapse of a train station canopy that killed 15 people. Opposition parties say the government has no authority to pass new laws and are calling for new elections. The U.S. Senate has voted not to move forward a bill that would have banned transgender student athletes from participating in women and girls sports.
3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative, the motion is not agreed to.
The measure needed 60 votes to proceed. It failed along party lines last night. The House has passed similar legislation with 2 Democrats supporting that bill. Republicans, led by President Trump, have frequently leaned into the issue of transgender athletes, framing it as unfair to women and girls. Many Democrats argue that such measures distract from more important issues facing the nation and could further isolate and harm transgender youth. An investor group led by U.S. firm BlackRock is buying 2 ports at either end of the Panama Canal. Those terminals are currently operated by the Hong Kong-based group CK Hutchison. They've been at the center of a dispute between the Trump administration and Panama as President Trump accuses China of influencing the critical waterway. Last month, Panama's president denied that China had any control over canal operations. The roughly $23 billion deal requires approval from Panama's government. And now for some exciting news about 2 celebrity lovebirds who found fame online. Bald eagle power couple Jackie and Shadow of California's Big Bear Valley are now proud parents of 2 baby eaglets. Yesterday, a live stream showed some cracks in 2 of their new eggs. Then, just before midnight, new life entered the nest. Over 80,000 viewers tuned into the live stream this morning to watch the protective parents admire the eaglets and monitor a 3rd egg, which is expected to hatch in the coming days. So congratulations to Jackie and Shadow on the new members of their family. And from the beginnings of life to the passing of another, Robert Clark has died. He was elected Mississippi's first Black lawmaker of the 20th century in 1967. A teacher and descendant of enslaved people in a deeply segregated state, Clark was ostracized by his colleagues, forced to sit by himself in the House chamber and at official dinners. But Clark rose to the second highest leadership role in the state house, a position he held until he retired in 2004. His son, Bryant Clark, who took over his father's seat, says Robert Clark died of natural causes. He was 96 years old. Still to come on the NewsHour, what to expect from President Trump's address to Congress. Mexico argues against gun makers in the U.S. Supreme Court, plus much more.
This is the PBS NewsHour from the David M. Rubenstein Studio at WETA in Washington, and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.